The taste of salt is permanent now, not from the sea, from my own sweat, dried on my lips for so long I've forgotten what clean water feels like on my tongue. My name is Captain Marcus Santos. I've been sailing these waters for 30 years. Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea. I know every current, every reef, every safe passage through this stretch of ocean. I've made this run 847 times. I counted once, during a sleepless night in port. 847 times through the busiest shipping lane in the world. This is number 848, and it might be my last. I'm sitting in my command chair aboard the MV Helena Star, a 180-meter cargo vessel carrying grain and machinery from Hamburg to Mumbai. This chair has been my throne for 6 years on this ship. Cracked leather, worn smooth by my hands during storms and calm alike. The logbook is open in front of me on the navigation table, pages yellowed by the relentless heat that's been building inside this bridge for 2 weeks now. My handwriting gets shakier each day. Day 14. That's what I wrote this morning. Though morning and afternoon blend together when you're anchored in the middle of the Gulf with nowhere to go. The radio sits next to the logbook. Silent. It's been silent for 4 days now. Before that, it was chaos. Mayday calls, position reports, desperate voices in English, Arabic, Thai, Filipino. Now, it's just the occasional crackle of static when I adjust the frequency, hoping against hope that someone, somewhere, is still trying to coordinate a way out of this. Through the bridge windows, I can see the others, 17 ships within my line of sight. Cargo vessels like mine, tankers, container ships, all of us floating in this impossible limbo, anchored in international waters but unable to move forward, unable to turn back. Behind us, the IRGC patrol boats circle like sharks, fast attack craft with machine guns mounted on their decks. They don't come close enough to board us, but they're always there, watching, waiting. It started on February 28th. I remember the date because it was my daughter's birthday, and I was supposed to call her when we docked in Mumbai. Operation Epic Fury had begun 3 days earlier. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Military operations have code names, and they rarely affect civilian shipping. The strait has always been tense, but it's been open. 20% of the world's oil supply passes through here. You don't just close the Strait of Hormuz, except they did. The first sign was the radio chatter. Ships' captains reporting unusual IRGC activity. Fast boats approaching cargo vessels, ordering them to stop and anchor. At first, we thought it was random inspections. Harassment, maybe. The Iranians have done it before. A show of force that lasts a few hours, then business as usual. But the boats kept coming, and the ships kept stopping. I was 12 hours out from the strait when Captain Ahmed, on the tanker Oman Pearl, radioed that he'd been ordered to anchor. His ship was carrying crude oil from Kuwait to Japan. He complied, thinking it would be temporary. That was 13 days ago. The Oman Pearl is still out there, somewhere beyond my sight, waiting. By the time I reached the strait, there were already 40 ships anchored ahead of me. The IRGC patrol boat approached us at dawn. 2 men in military fatigues, speaking English with thick accents through a bullhorn. Stop your engines, drop anchor, await further instructions. What instructions? I radioed back. When would we be allowed to proceed? Await further instructions, they repeated, then sped away toward another vessel on the horizon. So I dropped anchor. What else could I do? These waters are controlled by shore-based missiles, patrol boats, even submarines. The MV Helena Star is a cargo ship, not a warship. Our top speed is 16 knots. Their patrol boats can do 40. We carry grain and machinery. They carry rockets. The heat is what gets to you first. It's March, but the Persian Gulf in March feels like August anywhere else. The air conditioning died on day 7. Chief Engineer Rodriguez has been nursing the generators, but we're running low on fuel. We need power for the desalination unit, for the galley, for the communication equipment. Air conditioning is a luxury we can't afford anymore. The bridge temperature reaches 110 degrees Fahrenheit by noon. The metal handrails are too hot to touch with bare skin. I've taken to wearing work gloves just to operate the radio and navigation equipment. My uniform shirt sticks to my back within minutes of putting it on. I've gone through 3 shirts today alone, and our laundry water is strictly rationed now. Rationed. Everything is rationed. We left Hamburg with enough food and water for a standard 30-day voyage. Hamburg to Mumbai through Suez takes 18 days in normal conditions. We planned for delays, weather, port congestion. We didn't plan for a blockade. Chef Morales came to see me yesterday. Bruno Morales, from Sao Paulo, been sailing with me for 4 years. Good man, keeps the crew fed and happy even in rough seas. Yesterday he looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Captain," he said, standing in my doorway like a man delivering news of death. "We need to talk about the food." I knew what he was going to say before he said it. We're down to basics. Rice, beans, canned vegetables. Enough for maybe 6 more days if we cut portions again. We've already gone from 3 meals to 2. The crew is losing weight, losing strength. Martinez in engineering collapsed yesterday from dehydration. We got him fluids, got him conscious, but he's weak. The water situation is worse. Our desalination unit is working, but barely. It needs more power than we can spare. We're producing maybe 60% of our normal freshwater output. Drinking water gets priority, cooking water second. Everything else, washing, cleaning, laundry, we use seawater when we can. I haven't had a proper shower in 5 days. None of us have. The smell in the corridors is getting thick. Sweat, unwashed bodies, stress. It's the smell of men pushed beyond their limits, trapped in a steel box under the relentless sun. But the worst part isn't the heat or the hunger or the thirst. It's the silence from outside. For the first week, we had hope. The radio was alive with chatter from other captains, updates from shipping companies, reassurances from maritime authorities. The U.S. Navy was monitoring the situation. International maritime law was being violated. Diplomatic pressure was building. Help was coming. Then came day 9. I was monitoring Channel 16, the international distress frequency, when I heard Captain Sompong from the Mayuri Nari, Thai-flagged cargo ship, about 8 kilometers southwest of my position. I'd spoken with him several times since the blockade began. Decent man, been sailing even longer than me. His voice came through crackling with panic. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Mayuri Nari. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack." I grabbed my binoculars and scanned the horizon. There, a thin column of black smoke rising from the southwest. The Mayuri Nari. 2 projectiles hit us. Captain Sompong's voice continued, broken by static and what sounded like explosions in the background. "Fire in the engine room. We have crew trapped below. Repeat, crew trapped in engine room." I watched the smoke grow thicker. Other voices joined the channel. Captains offering assistance, reporting their positions, asking for orders from someone, anyone in authority. "This is Mayuri Nari," came Sompong's voice again, weaker now. 3 crew members trapped in engine room. Fire spreading. We cannot reach them. Request immediate assistance. That was the last transmission from the Mayuri Nari. I kept the binoculars trained on their position for hours. The smoke continued until sunset. I never saw rescue boats. I never heard another transmission from Captain Sompong. The next morning there was no smoke, just empty ocean, where the Mayuri Nari used to be. 3 men trapped in an engine room while their ship burned around them. I try not to think about what their last minutes were like. The heat, the smoke, the realization that no help was coming. But I think about it anyway, especially at night when I can't sleep. That was when we learned about the others. The Star Gwyneth, a British-flagged container ship, reported a 2-meter hole torn in her hull. She's taking on water but staying afloat. Barely. Captain Williams has his pumps running constantly, but he's fighting a losing battle. Every hour, the Star Gwyneth sits lower in the water. 14 incidents since February 28th. That's the number we've pieced together from radio chatter before the silence set in. 14 ships attacked, damaged, or worse. The Mayuri Nari was just the one I witnessed, and through it all, we waited for rescue, for escorts, for someone to enforce international law. The U.S. Navy has a base in Bahrain, less than 200 kilometers from here. The Fifth Fleet, they call it. Destroyers, cruisers, aircraft carriers, enough firepower to clear a path through the strait in hours. They refused. I heard it on the maritime emergency frequency on day 11, an American admiral, speaking in that calm, measured tone that military officers use when they're delivering devastating news. U.S. naval forces will not provide escort services through the Strait of Hormuz at this time. All commercial vessels are advised to seek alternative routes. Alternative routes. As if 280 cargo ships could simply turn around and sail back to where they came from. As if there were another way to get oil and goods from the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world. As if 20% of global petroleum exports could find an alternative route. I sat in this chair and listened to that transmission, and I felt something break inside me. Not anger, not fear, something deeper. The realization that we're truly on our own out here. The economics don't matter to us. We know oil prices have hit $200 per barrel. We know the global supply chain is fracturing. We know billions of dollars in cargo is sitting motionless in these waters. But that's not our reality. Our reality is the sound of the air conditioning dying, the taste of recycled water that gets more metallic each day, the sight of my crew growing thinner, weaker, more desperate. Rodriguez came to see me this morning. Chief engineer, 30 years in maritime service. Served on everything from fishing trawlers to cruise ships. He's the kind of man who can fix anything with spare parts and determination. But even Rodriguez has limits. "Captain," he said, removing his cap and wiping sweat from his forehead, "the number 2 generator is overheating. If it goes down, we lose the desalination unit. If we lose the desalination unit, we lose our freshwater production. We have maybe 3 days of drinking water in reserve. After that, how long can you keep it running?" I asked. "Maybe 48 hours. 60 if we shut down all non-essential systems." Non-essential. Air conditioning is non-essential. Lighting in the crew quarters is non-essential. Hot water is non-essential. We're already living like castaways on our own ship. The crew looks to me for answers I don't have, for hope I can't provide. This morning, during our daily briefing, I saw it in their faces. Gonzalez, our radio operator, 26 years old, married with 2 small children in Barcelona. He hasn't been able to contact his wife since day 10. Petrov, one of our deckhands, keeps asking when we'll get moving again. He has medical appointments scheduled in Mumbai, something about his heart. Thompson, our cook's assistant, just stares out at the water for hours at a time, not speaking to anyone. What do I tell them? That the most powerful navy in the world has abandoned us? That international law means nothing when the shooting starts? That their families are watching the news and wondering if they're already dead? I write in the logbook every day because that's what captains do. Record the ship's position, weather conditions, significant events. But what do you record when nothing changes? Day 14. Still trapped. Still dying slowly. The position hasn't changed in 2 weeks. 26 degrees, 52 north, 55 degrees, 47 east. I know those coordinates by heart now. They're burned into my memory like a scar. The weather is always the same. Hot, clear, windless. The Gulf is like a mirror most days, reflecting the sun back at us with merciless intensity. Significant events? We're out of significant events. We're in survival mode. I've been thinking about my family a lot. My wife, Maria, my daughter, Carmen, my son, Diego. They live in Barcelona, in a small apartment near the port where I used to work before taking this job. Carmen just turned 25. She's an architect now, designing buildings that will outlast both of us. Diego is in university, studying marine engineering, following in his father's footsteps, he says. What will they think when they see the news reports? 280 ships trapped in Persian Gulf. Will they know I'm one of the 280? Will they know I'm still alive? I recorded a message for them yesterday using my personal camera, just in case. I don't know if anyone will ever find it, but I needed to say the words, to tell them I tried to come home, to tell them I'm sorry for all the birthdays I missed, all the school plays, all the family dinners. A sailor's family learns to live with absence, but this feels different. This feels final. The worst part is the waiting. We're sailors, trained to solve problems, to take action. But there's nothing to do here except wait. Wait for rescue that isn't coming. Wait for negotiations that aren't happening. Wait for our supplies to run out. Some of the other ships have tried to leave. 2 days ago, I watched a container ship from Denmark attempt to make a run for open water. The IRGC patrol boats intercepted them within an hour. I heard the gunfire across the water, sharp cracks that echoed off our hull. The Danish ship stopped. They're back at anchor now, but there's a black mark on their superstructure where something exploded near the bridge. Message received. We're not leaving until they say we can leave. But when will that be? What do they want from us? We're civilian vessels carrying civilian cargo. We're not part of Operation Epic Fury. We're not part of any military operation. We're just trying to deliver grain and machinery and oil to people who need them. I've studied the charts, looking for answers that aren't there. The Strait of Hormuz is barely 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Every ship that wants to enter or exit the Persian Gulf has to pass through here. It's the ultimate choke point, and now it's closed. The silence from my company is almost worse than the silence from the Navy. Hartmann Shipping, Hamburg. I've worked for them for 8 years. Good company, fair contracts, decent benefits for the crew. But since day 10, nothing. No updates, no instructions, no reassurance that they're working on our situation. Either their communications are being blocked, or they've written us off as acceptable losses. I think about the cargo we're carrying. 15,000 tons of wheat from Ukraine, destined for food processing plants in Mumbai. Medical equipment bound for hospitals in Chennai. Industrial machinery for factories in Bangladesh. Somewhere, people are waiting for these deliveries. Patients who need the medical equipment. Workers who need the factory jobs. Families who need the food. But we can't deliver any of it. We're floating warehouses, surrounded by water we can't drink, under a sun that's slowly killing us. The heat is getting unbearable. Even at night, the temperature inside the bridge doesn't drop below 90 degrees. The metal deck plates are warm to the touch 24 hours a day. Sleep is almost impossible. I doze in this chair for maybe 2 hours at a time, then wake up drenched in sweat, disoriented, hoping this is all a nightmare. It's not a nightmare. It's day 14, and there's no end in sight. I don't know how much longer we can last. Rodriguez says the generators might hold out another week if we're careful. Chef Morales thinks we have 4 days of food left, maybe 5 if we cut portions again. The freshwater situation is critical. And still, the radio stays silent. No rescue missions, no diplomatic breakthroughs, no international task forces coming to escort civilian vessels to safety. I keep thinking about those 3 crew members trapped in the Mayuri Nari's engine room. In my mind, I can hear them pounding on the bulkheads as the fire spread, shouting for help that never came. That's going to be all of us if this continues. Not fire, maybe, but heat exhaustion, dehydration, starvation, different causes, same result. Sometimes I climb up to the flying bridge, the highest point on the ship, and scan the horizon with binoculars, looking for something, anything, that might mean rescue is coming. A warship on the horizon, aircraft overhead, even another merchant vessel that somehow made it through. There's never anything. Just heat waves rising from the water, making the distant ships shimmer like mirages. And beyond them, the patrol boats. Always the patrol boats, reminding us that we're prisoners in international waters. If anyone is watching this, if anyone finds this recording, you need to understand what's happening here. The headlines talk about oil prices and shipping delays and diplomatic tensions. They don't talk about the human cost. They don't talk about 17 ships visible from my bridge, each one filled with men and women who just want to go home to their families. We're not statistics. We're not acceptable casualties in someone else's war. We're people. And we're dying out here. I don't know if I'll be able to record another message like this. The camera battery is running low, and we need to preserve power for essential systems. Tomorrow, they tell us the situation might get worse. New restrictions on water usage. Further cuts to food rations. Day 15 starts in 6 hours. I'll still be here, in this chair, watching the empty horizon and hoping for a miracle that isn't coming.